This podcast contains adult themes and language. The views expressed here are our own opinions and experiences. We are not medical professionals.
In this podcast, we discuss our opinions about mental health, sobriety, addiction, and our pursuit of happiness and peace. This is Sober Mind.
Everybody.
Good morning.
Good morning. My name is John.
I'm Judy.
And this is Sober Mind. Here we have grown folk conversations about our soul, our spirit, our sobriety and mental health adventures.
Yeah, our train wrecks.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's all in there.
And all the good stuff that happens in life. Arjun, I think I'm pronouncing that right. Welcome to the United States of America. We have a lot to learn from the Netherlands. We are a train wreck, so we apologize. Please don't follow our example by any means. Okay, today's show is going to be about reparenting our inner child and what that looks like. This is going to be a conversation that's kind of all over the place, so just bear with us. But we are going to watch some Patrick Teahan tips and tricks on how to basically save yourself from disastrous situations by figuring out those reparenting tips and tricks and what those look like.
Yeah, to pull yourself out of traumatic situations.
Yeah. Before that, we're going to get into our gratitude. You see an absent dog from the dog cam over here. Nessa is throwing a fit. She's right off camera. She does not want to get on her bed.
She does not want any paparazzi right now.
So there, we have Ozzy. Okay. You want to start with your gratitude?
Sure. I am grateful for my wonderful husband. for your support, for your encouragement, for your drive, for your achievements, for your goal setting, for your all around being there and supporting me and encouraging me through our sobriety and mental health journey.
Well, thank you, babe. Sounds like I paid you to say all of that.
Nope.
Well, I appreciate it. And likewise, thank you very much. I know in the beginning of this journey, when we both got sober, it was a challenging ride. Especially
it was definitely a roller coaster. There was a few times I was like, check, please.
Yeah.
But you know what? I think it has made us stronger. Not every relationship could go through this.
That's right.
I think that it definitely made us more cohesive together and more symbiotic instead of estranged and not wanting to be around each other. I'm very appreciative of that fact.
We weren't really estranged before, though, were we? I don't think so. When we were drunk?
No, we got drunk together. So, you know, it was always there. But I don't think either one of us were able to experience the true other. I don't think you were able to experience my true self, and I wasn't able to experience your true self. It was always the drunken mask that we had on, or the high mask that I had on. I mean, I was high all the time, so you never really saw the true me until I got sober.
Yeah, I mean, I've known you very closely for many decades.
True. Very true.
I think you and I probably do a little bit of injustice to our history, and that is, yes, we're alcoholics, but for the first decade of our marriage, we weren't so far into our alcoholism. Actually, yeah.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Because I can remember many of weeks go by where we drank every day, and then got hammered on the weekends, every weekend.
Yeah. Yeah, but we missed out on growth and development for sure. Lisa, I was just about to say, and as Lisa would say, I'm not telling you it's going to be easy. I'm telling you it's going to be worth it. Good morning,
Definitely.
Lee.
Morning, Lee.
Okay, so my gratitude, hold on. I wrote a reminder. I'll do my gratitude, then we're going to give Lee a very quick 30-second review of Unfrosted.
Oh, okay.
We promised.
Yep.
Okay. My gratitude today is for my overall journey and life experience that I've been going through for the last couple years. I'm grateful that I'm able to do this. Not trying to be funny, but it is not easy all the time.
Nope.
I have been doing a lot of continued work on myself, and I've been very intentional about what I'm trying to unpack and focus on.
Mm-hmm.
It is still always very noisy in my mind.
You still have the circus going on.
Yeah. I think it is starting to become a little bit tempered. I really continue to practice living in the here and now, but goddamn, that's easier said than done.
Yes.
I find myself being regretful of the past and afraid of the future.
Yeah. And unfortunately, that does you no good.
I know. And so those two together, push me into not being able to live in the now.
Mm-hmm.
I'm getting better at it, I think, with mindfulness. Meditation is still a fucking struggle for me. God, it's
well, it's it's just like practicing. It's just like practicing the drums. You're not going to instantly be a professional. You have to keep working at it until it gets easier and easier and easier.
I know.
But there's going to be modalities that you're going to find are easier for you than modalities that would be easier for me to work around. So you just have to find what works for you.
Yeah.
Sorry?
Judy's got her notifications on her watch.
No, it's somebody trying to call me.
Yeah. Well, so like I've been telling folks and myself on my YouTube shorts is that just because we stop drinking doesn't make us sober.
Yeah. Because you can definitely be a dry drunk.
Yeah. We really, some of us really have to continue the work.
Yeah.
And what that work is for everybody is, it looks different for all of us.
Yeah, there's always something that caused you to get into that addictive personality of drinking or using substances on, an addictive way. There's always some underlining issue that you don't want to face or haven't faced or haven't worked on that is there, that when you get sober, you're going to have to deal with it because it's not going to go away.
No. Well, so I digress, but my gratitude is that I'm thankful that I'm able to be on this journey. And what that able means is that I'm alive, I'm healthy, I've got the mental fortitude to push through some of the dark days that happen still.
And you're doing very well. You need to give yourself a little bit of grace because you've really come a long way.
I know.
That's the one thing that I think we both work at is that we don't give ourselves enough grace and enough kudos and attaboys for the progress that we've made this far.
Yeah, I know. And that's, we're going to be talking about that. I've really been trying to figure out the best approach. And I think I've made a couple strides in reparenting that inner child, my inner child. And seeing what that looks like. So, okay, real quick, we're gonna watch the video on that Patrick Teahan is going to be. We're gonna be watching Patrick Teahan. Sorry, my brain was trying to make up some kind of fancy sentence there. There's nothing about it. Okay, but first I want to share. Patrick Teahan is one of our favorite child psychiatrists or psychologists. He's a licensed therapist, I think, in Canada. Hold on, let me just retract the Canada statement. He's just a licensed child therapist and psychiatrist. Anyway, on his YouTube that I've subscribed to, on his channel, he posted on his community the other day a statement that I thought was pretty profound. He says, "If you wouldn't raise your children how you were raised, then you probably had a traumatic childhood. You probably experienced trauma."
Which is, like I said the other day, it's pretty much common sense. It makes a lot of sense, but it's just not a question you would actually ask yourself.
Yeah. But that comment came up in one of my shorts the other day, and someone's like, what is child trauma? Well, it's really difficult to answer, but if you're an adult and you're thinking about having children and you say to yourself, I'm not going to raise my kids how I was raised, then you might want to do some reflection and think, oh shit, I probably had some childhood trauma in my life. And trauma goes a bunch of different directions too. It's not just, my trauma, which I've talked about, which is the multitude of physical and mental abuse. That's obviously traumatic, but that can look different for other people. That can happen with just general neglect. That's what Dad and I were talking about it yesterday, and his trauma was probably based around neglect.
Yeah. I also think that it has something to do with the person themselves, either being a hypersensitive person, which we will get into later, or being a stronger, more resolved person. I think it also depends on the type of person themselves, especially if it's a hypersensitive person. They can really get traumatized with things that other people would think were not really drastic at all.
Yeah. Walk a mile in someone else's shoes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a really good point, babe. And that when we think about other people's lives, this comes. I'm listening to a book. I'll have the full title, in the doctor next week because I want to get through it a little bit more before I make my official recommendation. But it's all about letting go,
which is not easy for a lot of people.
No, but I think this is. I'm glad I found this book. As I get more into it, I think this is probably a cornerstone in the foundation of the shit that is continuing to be the loudness within my spirit and my mind. Is that I think I have an identity of myself that I'm really still, after sobriety, struggling to slough away, and that is my identity. The person that I wake up as every day is a hostile, anxious, angry person. And that's not who I want to be, but that's who.
Yeah. That's who you identify with, though.
Well, that's who I was for so many years.
Yeah.
And I do know how to forge that new path. And that is figuring out how to, as I'm talking about it, I'm getting tense. You know,
I can tell.
Yeah, you can?
Yeah.
Calm down, John. Jesus. Yeah, that's not who I want to be, but I'll be damned if it's not someone that's always there.
That's that. According to Eckhart Tolle, that can be your egoic side of you, the side that is still connected to your past, still connected to past traumas, still connected to memories and experiences and stresses and anxiety that you don't want to be attached to, but that's the only thing your egoic side can attach to because it was something that happened. Even though that is not you now, that is not who you are at this specific moment. It is what your mind and your ego attach to, because that's what they know.
Yeah. It's pervasive. It's really deep rooted in all of us, I think.
It very much is. There's a lot of people who live in the past.
Yeah.
Or live in the future. They think about what they have to do later on today, what they have to do next week, what their goals are for. And it's not a bad thing to have goals, but to live in those goals and not live right now is not very beneficial.
It is not. It's the underlying foundation of my general anxiety.
It's hard to realize that that is not who you are.
Yeah.
That's who your mind wants to attach to, but that is not who you are right now, because that's really the only thing that matters.
Yeah. I do need to give myself a lot more grace, and I've said that a lot. It's just easier said than done.
Yes.
Yeah. Take some time.
Especially when you've grown up like you have, with having that constant in your ear, you're not good enough, you're not good enough, you're not good enough.
Yeah.
That embeds itself in you, especially as a child.
Yeah. Man, just hearing you say that, you know, it brings tears to my eyes just thinking of that shit that my mother said, and that I can never get it out of my head. The whine on her breath and her purple nose and her grabbing me tightly and pulling me into her face and screaming and spitting in my face and saying that she wished I was never born.
Yeah.
That's not good.
No, that's not good. And unfortunately, that's what your brain is still telling you you're attached to.
Yeah.
And it's saying that's who you are, which is completely wrong.
I know. So we'll get there. Be patient with ourselves. Be kind to ourselves. We are loved.
We are loved.
Yeah, and when I look back and try to give myself a pat on the back, I do see it. I am proud of myself for what we have done and what I've done.
You should be.
Like I mentioned during last week's show, it was just a year ago when I cold turkey quit all of my anti-anxiety and antidepressants.
Yeah.
And when I say all, there was 3. Mood stabilizer and 2 different SSRIs, SNRIs. It was, again, we're not medical professionals. Don't do the shit that I did.
We do not recommend it.
Yeah. Yeah. Thanks for the nice comments, Lee and Lisa. You guys are absolutely right. Okay. Let's jump into it. But first, real quick, let's lighten let's bring some levity to this conversation.
Let's lighten it up, God damn it.
Yeah. Yeah, be happy, sons of bitches. Okay, for our... thank you, Michelle. Thank you very much. So real quick, to lighten the mood, last weekend for our Friday movie day that we have with Dad, we do takeaway food and watch a movie or two, and we have a really good time. Last week, I'm not gonna lie, here's my review of Unfrosted.
A little disappointed.
Yeah. Here, Lee, in a nutshell, if you're a huge fan of Jerry Seinfeld and his comedy delivery, then that's kind of what you're going to get throughout the whole thing. But it was super campy and just like... there's a ton of cameo appearances and there's a bunch of stars in it, but
a bunch of one-liners and little nods here and there to other stuff.
Yeah, I walked away from that movie thinking to myself, if I was ever a producer, I would tell myself, hey, just because you throw a bunch of good actors into a movie doesn't make it a good movie. There you go, Lee. That's what we have to say about that.
It was campy and it was purposefully done that way, but I think they did a little bit too much of it. They went a little over the top.
Yeah.
They could have dialed it down just a little and it would have been a lot more palatable.
It dialed it down a lot.
Yeah.
Okay, let's jump into it. Thanks for letting us talk. Again, Nessa's off camera. She may come over here. I don't know, but the other dog is here. Okay.
No, she's still on camera. You can see her face.
Yeah. Oh, you can. There's Puka off camera. All right.
Hey everybody, I'm Patrick Tian, LICSW. I'm a childhood trauma specialist, and here is a quick video on 8 therapy ideas that really helped me in my recovery from childhood trauma. They're just ideas or concepts that might get you out of a trigger. They might kind of help you just kind of feel better from moment to moment, and they can definitely help you in reparenting the inner child. So let's just get into it. Here's how it goes. The first one is something called don't sweat those who are not in your inner circle. What I mean by that is this is for when we get triggered by people who aren't really that close to us and we give a lot of extra mental energy to. The boss that's in your life, the person online, the friend of the friend who says something when you're out with them, and they can really trigger us and live in our heads rent-free. Those who are in our inner...
That one is all over me. This is... I become dysregulated in the morning because I wake up and I'm thinking about some bullshit person at work for no real reason.
Yeah, and they don't affect our life whatsoever.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was thinking, I woke up the other day thinking of how I reacted to some clerk at the store. Why it's taking up space in my brain, I don't know, because I'll probably never even see that person again. But for some reason, it has taken up room in my brain, and that's where it's staying for now.
Yeah. So I want to hone in on a lot more of this because that resonates very well. Don't sweat those who aren't in your inner circle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Inner circle, partners, family, those who are really, really close with, or a therapist, is what the concept is about is really reserve conflict-oriented energy only for those people because you care about them and those are the people to kind of work with. So when you have a boss or somebody that triggers you, especially with social media online, this is all over the place, is we give people too much energy in our head, and we're fighting with them in our head, or we're really triggered by them, when at the end of the day, they don't really matter. That coworker is going to be out of your life at some point, and it's just a reframe to get centered around who is worth giving energy to. The second one is
This is why you and I made the conscious decision to get off of the only
Facebook.
social media platform we have is YouTube, but it's, for a video delivery. But Facebook and Instagram and all these things, I know. Shut up, old man John. We get it. But all it does is put our weird little lizard brains into this state of looking at all of this perfection that people create and put on there.
Yeah.
And man, our brains don't know how to handle that.
And then we
shit
have self-recrimination.
Yeah, you go to bed thinking about the Joneses of, oh my God, look at that.
Or you wake up the next morning thinking, okay, what can I post today? I need to find something that's really cool to post on Facebook.
Yeah.
Do you really?
Yeah. No.
something that is a little bit tricky, so try not to confuse this one with toxic positivity. This is called pronia. Pronia is a collection of British psychologists that came up with the idea of pronia as the opposite to paranoia. And pronia can be really useful for you because what it does, pronia is a concept of looking for the ways that the world is conspiring for you, as opposed to feeling like the world is conspiring against you. Again, try not to confuse it with toxic positivity. That's just like empty platitudes and look at the bright side kind of a stuff. But pronia is an action of really looking for things that are really concrete primal evidence. Things like you have shelter. If you got hurt, you may have access to a hospital. And I know that some of these things may not be true for some of you, and I get that. But it's just the concept of looking for where things are actually going for you as opposed to going against you. And as a side note, while I love the concept of pronia, it was more helpful to me after I did a whole bunch of childhood trauma work and to really get sort of an unsafe outlook kind of off the table for me. So if this one doesn't work for you, I totally get it. Maybe later for this one.
So I have to say that one, the more I use that, the easier it becomes, and my brain automatically starts to just use it off the top instead of having to really focus on and really try and gear my brain to think that way.
Which portion? Give me some context.
Okay, so instead of going into a difficult situation or having a difficult situation, I'm able to look at the positive aspects of it instead of the negative aspects of it. And why is this happening and how can I learn from it? How can I benefit from it? Instead of looking at it as a traumatic instance that I put myself in the victim aspect of it. I'm no longer trying to put myself in the victim aspect of it and trying to look at it as an objective or as a positive instead of a negative. To look at specific situations that normally previously I would have looked at as harmful to me or as, why is this happening to me? What did I do to deserve this? That type of thinking. Now I'm able to look at it and think, okay, how can I learn from this situation? How can I do something better or in a different way so that this doesn't come back and, I have to revisit this again? It doesn't always happen. There's a few times that I slip down into, why is this happening to me? Why me? But I'm able to look at it now and try and move past it and not hold on to it. Because I find that if I do that as well, it just keeps me in that victim mentality. And I can't move beyond that and try and grow as a person.
Yeah, thanks for sharing that, babe. I've noticed that a lot about you, especially in the last, 7 to 9 months. Yeah, there was something that really flipped with you. And I noticed a marked change. It's
retraining. Our brains are like computers. If you keep doing, one specific thing, then the brain goes, oh, okay, that's what you want to do. Well, we'll just keep feeding that to you.
Yeah.
If you want to be a victim, you're going to stay in the victim position because that's what your brain thinks, okay, that's where you want to be. So we're just going to keep you there.
Yeah. The doctor made a good in the book that I'm I'm listening to made that exact statement / argument. And that is, when you're hateful, you surround yourself with hateful people. And then it just
Perpetuates.
it washes itself with all of that shit in the same washing machine.
Yeah. And you keep attracting that to you.
Yeah. Yeah. And then because of the hate and the negativity that you instill and surround yourself with, we become literally toxic in our bodies. It
physically manifests in your yourself.
Yeah.
In your organs, in your skin, in your everywhere.
Yep. So I paused it last night and I took a step back to think about what we've surrounded ourselves with. And right now it is very minimal. You know, it's essentially just, not just, but it's Kim and Brian that are in our lives. That's really it. And the reason that they are there now, and we had the 2.5 year break from that relationship while we got sober, is because they gave us this space to figure out the direction that we wanted to go. And I'm really thankful for that. But there's no but what I again realized, and we had this conversation with them in the beginning, and that is that you and I do a good job of only letting people into our lives that enrich us somehow.
We have started to do that, since our sobriety. I don't know if we did it prior to our sobriety. I think we just let people in that were in the same quagmire that we were in, so we could, misery loves company. So
yeah, we had good, enriching relationships, and those are the ones that we still have.
Yes,
we'll keep the names out of here for privacy's sake. But I really realized that the ones, man, we sought out some relationships that were intentionally unhealthy for us as well. Starts with R and J.
Oh yeah.
Were hardcore alcoholics, or are. I don't know if they're still alive.
And they did smoke their share of pot too.
Yeah, and we latched right onto them, and it seemed.
It's because we were in the like situation.
I know, but there was always something fighting me too with that relationship. It was like, this is not good. I remember how I ended that relationship, and it was because I was subconsciously looking for an excuse. My brain was like, hey, shit show, you've got enough going on.
You do not need
one dumpster fire at a time.
Well, I think it was shortly after we distanced ourselves from that we started going down the sobriety path. Or was it like a year after?
No, it was, babe, it was like 5 years after.
Really?
Yeah, that was in 2019. Anyway, let's have not.
That's my pot timeline.
Yeah.
So the next one, this one's all over the place. You'll find it in Buddhism, you'll find it in some Stoic writing, and it's just simply, is it kind? Is it necessary? Is it true? This one is helpful if you tend to have a reaction and you tend to blurt out things, or you tend to say things in a very defensive way, or if your inner child really pops up and needs to get even with someone or gets a little bit self-righteous. So is it kind, necessary, or true? In short, this is really helpful to pause, where before you're about to send an email, before you're about to respond to somebody online, before you're about to engage in your partner in a fight and kind of like up the ante or escalate things or get a little bit upset with them, is to really sort of ground and stop and say, is it kind? Is it necessary? Is it true? The other side of it is, I'm not sort of saying not use your empowered voice. Is inner children are growing up in toxic family systems. We really need to kind of relearn how to deal with people, especially if you come from a very high conflict, very kind of nasty family system. We have to learn to really know how to relearn how to address people and how to speak with people. So it's just sort of, it's also, is it true? is, in a way, it's also good for our codependency, like in the way that we overly take care of somebody or we let things slide. Is it true that they don't owe you money? No, they actually do owe you money. Is it necessary? It's necessary to me. Is it true? Yes. Is it kind? I can say it in a kind way. So it's just kind of a really good to keep some parameters around how you want to communicate, to not trigger yourself to shame later in having a reaction, or not be true to yourself. Moving on to the next one, I love.
I've sent some drunk emails in the past. Regrets.
Yeah.
Lisa knows where I'm at professionally, and it was like, oh my God, it's not the right organization to do that. Anyway, I learned my lesson from those, and still now in my sober world, I do take a minute to recognize the emotion that I'm having, let it wash over me, and then this is part of the letting go, and then just let that go.
Mm-hmm.
This is going to be another one I need to keep in my toolbox. What did he say?
Is it kind? Is it necessary? Is it true?
Yes.
That is very profound and very simple all at the same time.
Yeah.
Very easy to use and very hard to use.
Yeah.
Because there is a lot of times when my inner child really wants to stand up and say, and poke you in the chest and say, and just not you specifically, but to express themselves with spite and hate and just to get their point across. And it's really not necessary. And it's definitely not kind.
Yeah, exactly. I think this is us being the victim still with a lot of stuff. It is for me. It's, man, when I put on a fake face when I receive feedback around performance plan times and stuff like that.
Negative or positive or both?
Well, both. Well, okay, no, especially the negative. It's not negative. It's, it's
constructive.
Yeah, supposedly. But man, my inner victim is just like, you are fucking out to get me. It's a visceral instant, like, fuck you. Why are you judging me? And it's like,
that's your inner child.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's I work my ass off. Why are you? It's always you and this and everybody else. And it's always later on where it's like, John, fucking calm down, man.
Take a breather.
It's you, John, is the everything.
Yeah, there's been a few times that I've had to parent my inner child by telling myself, or as I visualize in my head, telling that little girl inside me that it's okay. They're not attacking you, and I'm here to protect you.
Yeah.
And that has helped me get through a lot of stuff.
I like that. Again, I know we've said this a lot, but as we go through this, it's easier said than done, especially in the moment.
Mm-hmm.
If I'm getting constructive or otherwise feedback about performance or life in general with stuff, it's tough to in the moment just be like, all right, inner child. I don't know.
Well, you have to find your own, like I said, you have to find your own modality. You have to find what works for you. What works for me is to visualize that little girl and then me coming towards them as an adult and, wrapping my arms around them and saying, it's okay. This is not personal. And I'm here to protect you. So it's okay. I understand your feelings, and those are your feelings, but just know that I'm here to protect you. And it goes the same way with receiving positive stuff as well. Positive comments for me, because I have trouble receiving positive comments because my little girl thinks she doesn't deserve it.
Yes.
So I have to in turn say, you do deserve this. You did a very good job.
Yeah.
And we're going to accept this because it's okay. You can accept this. You deserve it.
Yeah.
Even if it's just, you have a nice shirt on.
Thank you.
There you go.
It does take work. Devils in Baggy Pants 82, thank you for joining us. Thanks for the comment. Please join us again. Hey, Arjun from the Netherlands, are you still with us, or did you just nope the fuck out? Be like, Jesus, man, I don't know. This is America in a nutshell. All right, let's continue on.
Feel whatever. When we are triggered as childhood trauma survivors, we usually go to a shame place. I'm bad. Yeah. I'm bad for not being sensitive enough. I'm bad for not taking care of somebody's problems. I'm bad because I caused this person's emotions. Is it kind? Is it necessary? Is it true? Where usually inner children have kind of a warped perception about how feelings work in terms of others. So letting people feel whatever can be your coworkers, can be your own children, can be your partner, can be you're not even part of it, but you witness someone really like being disappointed at a grocery store because they can't get a refund, and you're, as highly sensitive people, we're overly feeling for that if you identify with that problem. So letting them feel whatever is a really good inner child parenting idea of, and this will relate to another one down the road of the 3 C's, is we can't take on people's emotions too much. We can't fix their problems. And just in a really beautiful way is just to say, they're just feeling their feelings. We're safe. We're safe for them to feel their feelings. If your child is disappointed and your inner child is like, oh my God, they're having a childhood like I have, they're sad. It's just letting your child be disappointed about something that's natural and appropriate and normal, or it's just really a hard feeling. It's better to be present with somebody and what they're feeling, as opposed to that we caused it or that we're taking it on. This one is tough when it really comes to real time. So it's almost like a little bit of a practice of it is if your partner is really disappointed or frustrated at work, that can trigger you, because it's just like it's like growing up with a nasty parent, although your partner's not a nasty parent. But the body is sort of saying, I'm in trouble and I caused it. So it's actually quite beautiful to just let the partner be in a negative mood and to remind yourself that you're safe in that and just let them go through that process. Moving on to the next one, I love this one, is
that one is really difficult for me because I am a highly sensitive person. When somebody is around me having those negative reactions or expressing themselves with those negative emotions, it's hard for me to separate between the two because I end up wanting to take on all of that negative energy, and it's very difficult to be in that situation. And my first reaction is to kind of guard myself, to kind of, back away and fear and flinch. And which is not a reaction that I should have for somebody who is complaining at a clerk in a store.
Yeah.
But that's my inner child. That's the first reaction, is to hide and flinch and quiver and take on that emotion. And I have to step back and realize that that's not me. That's not mine. I don't need to take that on. They're allowed to be the way they are. Let them feel their stuff. I don't need to feel it.
Yeah, that one's, and I'm an HSP2. Spoiler alert for next week's show, by the way. We'll get into the HSP stuff next week, but so imagine, everyone, Judy and I are highly sensitive and we've got a lot of baggage now. Have both of us be drunk for 2 decades and then figure out what happens when her and I would get into arguments in the past over nothing. It's just
Chinese food.
Yeah. Yeah. It was a mess.
It's the 3 C's. I didn't cause it, I didn't cure it, and I can't control it. This is from the 12-step world, specifically the Al-Anon world, where the 3 C's are really helpful in terms of our codependency related to the prior one about letting people feel whatever. In the toxic family system, let's just call it an alcoholic parent, an alcoholic parenting, or an alcoholic family, where we're raised in that system to believe that we caused their drinking, we've burdened them, and that's why they're an alcoholic. And we feel like if we are special enough or kind enough, then maybe they won't drink that day. Or we try to control the parameters of getting rid of their alcohol or hiding it. All that kind of stuff that goes in with an alcoholic family system is we didn't cause the alcoholism, or you can flip that to a parent's mental health problem. We can't cure it. We're not sort of doctors, and we can't control it. This is also a very sobering idea around Notice how cause, cure, and control, they're very action-oriented almost things about trying to fix somebody else's problem or feel responsible for someone else's problem. And they're really good emotionally sobering ideas, the 3 C's, to realize that we don't have the power to get somebody to stop drinking. We don't have the power to get a parent to take medications or go to therapy. We can't cure them as well. Especially what I really love about it is especially when the person with the problem who's struggling with their mental health or alcoholism or whatever, they're not interested in changing. And I think that that's what really drives our want to kind of control it or cure it or believe that we cause it. So I love that one. Moving on to number 6 is something that I came up with. I said it somewhere in the video, is just simply to know your audience. What this means is that when you are getting criticized by somebody hypocritical, maybe a family member, that uncle that's like, you're breaking your mother's heart by not talking to her. Knowing your audience is about thinking about where and who that feedback is coming from. Growing up in childhood trauma, as children, we never had the power to talk back, or we never had the power to think about, is that really valid or whatever? Kids need a lot of help with those things, and usually abusive parents abuse that power of just telling you who you are and what you did and whatever. But now, as we are adults and we're working on our childhood trauma and we're looking at abusive family systems, it's almost like for us to think about, well, what about that person saying it? What about them? So that uncle that's like, you're breaking your mother's heart, is know your audience. Is that uncle codependency? Is that uncle understanding what happened to you? Is that uncle sort of like the bastion of mental health? Chances are that person is also greatly dysfunctional in their own life. So it's part of our inner adult that can kind of go, wait a minute, you know what I mean? Like, who are you to tell me? And that's part of knowing your audience, knowing who you're addressing, knowing who you're having this dialogue with, because they have a lot of problems too. And just because they have big opinions of you, it doesn't mean that they're right. But more specifically, think about what is going on in that person's life.
Just because they have big opinions of you doesn't mean they're right.
And this is all over the place online when people kind of are saying, going no contact, I could never do that, but she's your mother. Is that person doesn't know your history. That person probably doesn't even know that they're saying a very codependent sort of statement. That person, I always think about it just like, I would love to know about that. How is that person's love life? How is that person's relationship with their children? In other words, people are full of advice, but often their lives are on fire. So that's what I mean by that one. Moving on to number 7, one of my favorites is don't bring your inner child. And this is a visualization that when you have to do something difficult, like have a hard conversation with a roommate, like when you have to have a hard conversation, or you have to ask for a raise or have a hard conversation, or you have to advocate for yourself in front of a care provider or something like that, say a doctor or something like that, and authority is very triggering. The idea is that you don't bring your inner child with you into that space, into that room, into that conversation, and you imagine that they're being babysat by someone that you feel is safe, someone like a therapist that you're connected with. You can even visualize that, Patrick's babysitting my inner child while I go ask for a raise. Because when my inner child is with me, I tend to freeze and lose my words, and I lose my power. So the idea is to just really imagine that you've got this little kid that's coming from all this wounding and has those reactions. They're not bad. That's the part of us that takes over, and we become codependent, or we lose our words, or we say, oh, forget it, I was dumb for bringing it up. And we only approach the difficult situation from our inner adult place without kind of having the inner child popping up and kind of taking over. It really works if you tend to be a visual person. It really works if you have a connection with your inner child. It might not work so much if you haven't kind of had a connection yet with your inner child yet, but it is a concept. And for those who are really don't like the idea of the inner child or that language, is simply think about the same thing as, instead of saying, don't bring your inner child into that situation, or I would say, if you don't like that language, just go into the situation with your prefrontal cortex online and intact, not go into it from your limbic system and the trauma brain, specifically the amygdala. If you prefer that language, that's kind of like what I would say.
That actually helps. That's a good scientific explanation of it. And that is, when I am reacting to situations with my inner child instead of leaving my inner child with the babysitter.
Or with Patrick.
Yeah. This was, my crappy childhood fairy talked about this, and that's the dysregulation that happens in our frontal cortex, and that is the left side grays out. It doesn't respond. That's the logical portion, and instead, us dysregulated individuals that have been through trauma and whatnot, we are reacting to these things with emotion. And
that's what's easiest for me is to think about reacting without emotions and think about reacting from a logical or practical standpoint.
Yeah.
From the mental standpoint instead of the emotional standpoint.
Yeah. Man, that one's always very pervasive with me too. When I get in, it's weird. It's in my professional life a lot. When I encounter stress at work, I'm really reacting with emotion. That's why I'm glad that I'm in the position I'm in anymore, and I'm no longer in leadership, because once I got sober, all of that stuff really came to the forefront, and I really caught myself being a bad leader because my inner child wasn't getting any parenting, and I was just all over the place.
Yeah.
So I really found myself not being able to take care of other people because I wasn't taking care of myself yet either. I was just a fresh, scarred, purple new baby coming out of the sobriety womb.
That's a nice visual.
Yeah, into this world, and it's like I still have a lot to learn. This is a never-ending journey. So
I do the same thing with my parents, of all people.
Yeah,
that's the first when I have to deal more so with my mom. I think because I lived with her more than I did with my dad. But when having to try to deal with my mom or to talk to, even just in a regular conversation, I have to be very careful to not let my emotions overrule everything.
Yeah.
Because they will easily just overtake everything. And my thought process and my prefrontal cortex is completely non-functional.
Yeah. Sometimes I eavesdrop on your Zoom meeting that you have with your mom and your sister.
Yes.
And I notice that in the blink of an eye, that can turn into a blender of pain, the three of you.
Yes. Yes, it can. It can go from 0 to 60 on the emotional scale in a matter of seconds.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think you guys sometimes sit there and talk and really work hard on tempering yourselves, because if you don't, one of you is going to come unhinged and the fucking saloon door is going to open and it's going to be a gunfight.
Yeah. Yeah, it's an exercise in temperance.
Yeah.
But it's also good for me, while I'm going through this journey of self-healing and self-growth, it's also an exercise in dealing with those difficult situations and dealing with them in a different way than I normally would. Yeah. From an adult way instead of a childhood way.
Yeah. So more logical versus emotional.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because my inner child has a lot of grievances regarding that situation that I'm still trying to pick through one by one.
Yeah. Yeah, you have carried that around a long time. You feel like you've got wronged a bunch of times, and yeah, it is very prevalent.
And there's a lot of stuff that I need to let go of.
Yeah.
That I'm still holding on to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Likewise. Oh, yeah. I know.
Say as well. So I really love that one. It's gotten me out of so many jams, and it's gotten me through a lot of difficult things. And lastly, number 8, can you be a diplomat? And when we think about a diplomat, is a person who can deal in a sensitive and effective way. They can deal with a problem, deal with people in a sensitive and effective way. My mentor said this to me years ago, and she voiced it as, can you get political? And I've switched it, can you be a diplomat? Because the word political that takes our brain somewhere else right now. And she said this to me like 20 years ago. How my mentor said it to me when she said, can you get political? The situation was, I was working in a restaurant with a highly abusive restaurant manager. And that restaurant manager would be verbally abusive to you. And I had to get out of this job. And I was so triggered and so upset. Anybody would be with the way that this person was. And I was so ready to just walk out, but I didn't have another job lined up. And I was so self-righteous and ready to just, part of that's valid, part of that's my trauma. And I was so ready to just kind of give my notice that day. And I had therapy that day. And she said, can you get political and just bear it until you set up another job? And what she meant by that, she kind of taught that being political or being a diplomat is you're going into a nasty situation with your best self for your own best self-interest. This one is really about not shooting ourselves in the foot by becoming reactive, or when we're so dysregulated and we're so triggered that we can find our inner adult and just go, okay, I can deal with this I hate it, but I'll just deal with this for another 2 weeks until I can find a new job and apply for a new job and give my notice so I don't burn any bridges and blah, 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 like all that kind of BS that happens with it. So if you have to go into a roommate situation that went really bad and you still have to go pick up your stuff and you're really triggered about, am I going to have a conversation with them? Can you be a diplomat? Can you go do the hard thing anyway and get your record collection and get your mono Sgt. Pepper? Because you don't want that roommate to kind of like escalate and blow the thing up and not let you in. So that's kind of the situation there. It's stuff that we don't like, but there is stuff that we just have to do. Can you be a diplomat and have a difficult conversation with a family member?
That one's difficult for me because now that I'm aware of my dysregulation, I haven't been in one of those situations in a long time either, but I do. Oh man. Yeah. I go into that stuff full steam ahead, emotional fucking train wreck.
Yeah. My
battle.
My wonderful father told me that the art of diplomacy is to tell someone to go to hell so they enjoy the trip.
I know, but that's very difficult to do for some people.
Yeah, it's very hard. It's hard to take the emotion out of it and just work from the practical standpoint. It's very hard to do.
Yeah.
I couldn't be a politician.
No, neither could
I. Let's just say you're in no contact and then the someone in the family has gotten sick. I would sort of say, can you just go be a diplomat and do the really, really hard thing on a mission and get in and get out, instead of being really dysregulated and getting into nasty conversations kind of about that. So it's really about doing something that you don't want to do, but kind of doing it anyway because there's something in it for you that is at stake. In a diplomat, they might hate the person across the table. They might hate the country. They might hate the war. They might hate everything going on with it. But they have to go in there and have a civil conversation and keep the best interests of what's going on at heart in an effective way. So those are the 8. I hope it was helpful to you. I'm going to be doing some more short form videos to give you guys some quick answers, as well as my long form videos as well. And I would love to know what you thought about that video, which one really struck out to you. I would love to hear how these go. And again, these are just kind of mental concepts to get your inner adult in place so that you're not so triggered with your inner child and being dysregulated and blah, blah, blah. So that's it for me. I hope this was helpful to you, and may you be filled with loving kindness. May you be well. May you be peaceful and at ease, and may you be joyous. And I will see you next time.
So another thing I wanted to comment regarding being the politician is when you're going into it for something that you're personally going to gain out of it, you also have to make sure that personal gain that you're going to be getting out of it is worth it in the long term. I mean, is that worth it in your life to go through with that, being the politician and going into an uncomfortable situation and just dealing with it and moving on? I mean, is the outcome to your own personal benefit really a benefit?
Yeah. In order to get to that rational place, I would have to really pull myself back and think about the outcome without emotion before I got into it. That's what this whole thing is about for me. That's what takes the work. I've gotten a lot better. I hope you're not thinking I've sat here and just shit all over myself for this last episode. That's not what it.
No.
I'm trying to be very transparent about my journey and where I'm at.
I think you've progressed to the point to where you can self-evaluate and you can discuss the things that are uncomfortable for you, that were uncomfortable, responses that you did and actions that you took and how you used to be. I think you're getting to the point to where you can really self-evaluate in a positive way instead of self-recriminate.
Yeah. Yes. I thank you for noticing that. I just feel like I would do really well if I had 2 life coaches with me, Lisa and Lee, one on each side. And as I was going into situations, be like, I need one moment, please. Lisa, Lee, what do you guys think I should respond with? Then I would just go into it and they'd be like, well, this man is an animal and a saint all in one. Okay,
you need the 2 angels instead of the angel and the devil. You need the 2 angels on your shoulder.
Yeah, Lisa and Lee. Okay, so reparenting. What does that look like for you?
Reparenting, I think, is getting in touch with your inner child or getting in touch with your emotions from an adult perspective instead of from a child perspective, from a learned adult, from the observer, I guess. First, getting in touch with that inner child and having conversations with that inner child. Now, this is the way I do it because it works for me. It's not going to be the way others do it. Not always going to be the way others do it, but this is what works for me. Getting in touch with that inner child and having conversations with that inner child to let them know that you're not going to keep abandoning them. Because it's basically what happened when I was, growing up and being a young adult, was that I just abandoned my inner child and let them wreak havoc, gave them complete control and with no restrictions, and just let them wreak havoc emotionally. Just, every instance that came into my life, I dealt with emotionally.
Yeah.
And now I'm telling myself, or that inner child, that I'm here. I'm not going anywhere. I'm here to protect you. And we're going to do this together.
I like that. I'll need your help with reparenting my inner child. I think my inner child is still stuck in coming out of confusing child abuse and spiritual destruction. And then that inner child went to Fort Benning, Georgia, and was taught how to kill people.
Yeah.
And to respond with violence to everything. And then that inner child got out of the army and didn't really know how to navigate this world anymore.
Yeah.
I think that is all. It's a long rebuild process for me still.
Yeah. I think it's a long rebuild process for a lot of people.
Yeah. And then that inner child started drinking heavily and didn't deal with any of that stuff. So now I am here, 51 years old and sober, 2 years, 8 months. Oh shit, I think we're about to hit 999 days, by the way.
Yes.
And I got sober and I'm just now trying to figure out those decades of inner child neglect. So I hope to have it figured out by the time I'm 62.
That's a good goal.
Yeah.
That's a good goal to have. By the time I'm 62, I got this whole thing just wired, just dialed in.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the best way for me to give advice on somebody on how to do this is to really have a talk with yourself, an inner talk, a true talk. I mean, not just, brushing over the stuff, to really have an in-depth look at yourself.
Take a long walk in nature and do some deep digging.
And do it with a non-judgmental way.
Yeah.
Because that's what's going to happen is the first thing you're going to start judging yourself. And that's not how you progress forward. That's how you either stay where you are or you get worse. You have to take that inner critic and that inner judge and say, I hear you, but not right now.
Yeah.
You got to go away. And just look at everything objectively first. And then see where you want to go from there.
Yeah, I need to continue doing that. There is something inside of me that is getting ready to crack open, I feel like. Because some days, even when I'm happy, I feel a deep desire to cry.
Well, happy tears are okay.
I don't know if they're happy. But then sometimes it just won't well up properly. Like, yeah. There's a deep-seated broken electrical conduit in there somewhere that I can't figure out how to fix. And it's what keeps me in the anxiety a lot of times.
I think you're on the right path, though, because you have a seeking mind. You're looking for that answer. You're not just stagnating where you are.
I think I'm going to really continue to get through this book, too. I'm just very short into it, but I alluded to it in the beginning of this, and now that I'm thinking out loud, it's the letting go, I think, is where the well of crying needs to come from, but I just can't.
It's the last part of your old self that you have problem letting go.
I hope so. I hope that's the last part of it. God damn. Okay. Everyone, thank you so much. No, Lee, you give yourself some credit. You'd be an excellent coach over here. Yeah.
Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. We really appreciate all the support. If you're not subscribed, we would really love if you could just click on that subscribe button. We are very grateful for everybody who watches and listens, and even if you don't, chime in the chat, we are still grateful for you being here and joining us, and hopefully enjoying us.
Yeah. And speaking of that, Arjun, thank you so much for joining us. Please tune in next time.
Yes, and Devil
wears baggy pants.
Devil wears baggy.
Devil in baggy pants. Thank you for being
Devils
here.
in baggy pants.
Nancy, thank you so much for joining. And I just wanted to also relay on that. We really appreciate the support and everyone in the chat. But at the end of the day, Judy and I really just do this because we're here to. We don't make any money, so whatever.
Yeah, we're just here to express our journey and share it with you guys. And if we help one person, that's what we've decided. If we were going to be able to help one person, then we did what our goal was to do.
Yeah,
it's to just help one person.
That's our mission.
Our mission, yes. Thank you.
And we do a very good job of this. This is all done live.
Yeah, I know. There's no editing. No editing. Can you tell?
Yep. Hey, there's people that make YouTube videos and they spend hours and hours of editing and making it, and just making everything perfect. But here,
look, this is what you get.
Here
this is who we are.
Our wounds are ripped open and bleeding everywhere for you to witness. So, all right. That is it. Thanks again for your support. We appreciate you all.
Hope to see and hear from you next Saturday.
Yeah. So next Saturday, we're going to be discussing HSPs, which is us.
Hypersensitive people.
Highly sensitive people.
Highly sensitive people.
I think that's probably, and I don't want to put labels on anyone, but I suspect that's a great deal of our audience as well.
I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah, that's why I think we're all here. Because, so just a quick teaser, the HSP is something that, man, I don't know if it's ever going to get fixed, but spoiler, this is why I cannot go to a movie theater, because I hear one person crack open a bag of something, or I hear someone texting or typing on their phone. It's game over. That is all I hear.
That's all you can focus on.
I cannot even see the movie anymore. It is. So there's benefits to this as well. Our hypervigilance is a good thing in some instances, but we're going to talk about that next weekend. So
yes,
Lee, thank you for getting out of this. Thanks for being here. I would love to. We can't do it in a chat, but I don't know how to do it. Maybe I would love to hear about how your meeting went last week that you were discussing. So I think it was the ACA meeting. All right, we're gonna wrap it up. Thank you, everyone. Thanks for joining. Have a good rest of your weekend. You are kind. Be kind to yourselves.
Be patient with yourself.
You are loved. Bye.
I'm Poots.